Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into an absolute epic of human history. We're looking at the staggering scale of Alexandria's intellectual legacy. It's a story that stretches from an ancient, golden age of just unparalleled discovery, through some truly devastating tragedies, all the way to a magnificent modern resurrection. We're talking about a massive 2,000-year arc of knowledge, fire, and rebirth. So get ready, because the sheer scale of ambition in this explainer is honestly breathtaking.
Okay, let's dive into this with a quote that perfectly captures one of the greatest intellectual tragedies of antiquity. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, quite ironically, that 40,000 books were burned at Alexandria, the most distinguished achievement of the good taste and solicitude of kings. Right off the bat, this establishes a core motif for our story today: the fierce, illuminating light of human knowledge clashing head-on with the literal, destructive fires of warfare and political ambition.
And that tragic clash brings us to the central mystery framing our entire journey. Can a lost legacy actually be reborn? I mean, when the ultimate intellectual capital of the ancient world is reduced to ashes, is that just the end of the story? Or is it somehow possible for that exact same spirit of universal knowledge to rise again 2 millennia later on those very same Mediterranean shores?
Well, to answer that, we've got to go back to the beginning. Part 1, the Genesis, a universal vision. The city of Alexandria was designed to be a cosmopolitan hub, but its rulers wanted much more than just wealth. They wanted to build the greatest knowledge center on Earth. Let's move to our timeline and see how this builds across a massive 2,000-year Phoenix arc. We kick things off with the city's founding by Alexander the Great in 331 BC. Then, we hit our first major tragedy with Julius Caesar's fire in 48 BC. Moving forward into the late Roman era, we mark the end of an intellectual epoch with the death of the philosopher Hypatia in 415 AD. And finally, we'll leap all the way to the year 2002, when the modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina officially opens its doors. So you might be wondering, how did the ancient library get so massive in the first place? Well, it was through an absolute obsession with collection. The Ptolemaic kings initiated what was essentially a ruthless book hunt. Literally, any ship docking in the Mediterranean port of Alexandria was searched. If guards found books or scrolls, they confiscated the originals for the Great Library and merely gave copies back to the owners. It's wild. But through that royal patronage and aggressive gathering, they amassed hundreds of thousands of scrolls from Asia, Africa, and Europe. And the tangible result of gathering all that knowledge in one single place? It created an ancient think tank that pushed human understanding forward in absolute leaps and bounds. The library nurtured some seriously brilliant minds. You had Demetrius of Phalerum, who helped plan the Universal Library itself. You had Euclid, laying down the foundational rules of geometry. You had Eratosthenes, mapping the stars and famously calculating the circumference of the Earth. I mean, they were making discoveries that formed the bedrock of science for centuries to come. But, as we know, things take a turn. Part 2, the flames of war. This beacon of ancient knowledge was destined to encounter the literal flames of political instability and Roman ambition.
In 48 BC, the Roman Civil War rapidly spilled over into Egypt. It was a chaotic chain reaction. First, the Roman general Pompey flees to Egypt and is murdered. Then, Julius Caesar arrives, gets completely entangled in a local dynastic struggle between Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy XIII, and suddenly finds himself heavily besieged in the Alexandrian palace. Outnumbered and desperate, Caesar makes a brutal tactical decision to survive. He orders his own ships in the harbor to be set on fire so they don't fall into enemy hands. Tragically, the wind carried that fire from the docks right up into the city, striking a devastating blow to human history.
40,000. That is the staggering estimated number of books and scrolls lost to Caesar's fire. Now, historians do debate exactly how much of the main library was destroyed versus just the storehouses near the docks, and we know the library did survive in some form after this, but the vulnerability of all this concentrated knowledge was horribly exposed. The physical fragility of papyrus was just no match for the brutality of war. Which brings us to the twilight of classical Alexandria. Part 3, the end of an era. Over the next few centuries, the Great Library gradually declined due to shifting political tides and budget cuts. But the end of Alexandria's intellectual openness is profoundly personified by one tragic figure. That figure is Hypatia. Born in the mid to late 4th century, she was a brilliant mathematician, an astronomer, and a leading thinker of Neoplatonism. If you're not familiar, this was a philosophical system blending Platonic thought with rigorous mathematics, astronomy, and the deep pursuit of intellectual truth.
Hypatia was an incredibly respected teacher, drawing eager students from all over the empire, pagans and Christians alike. She was a true voice of wisdom in a rapidly changing city.
And this brilliantly illustrates the complex dynamics of the time, because her high profile placed her right in the middle of a dangerous political crossfire. On one side, you had Orestes, the Roman prefect and secular governor of Alexandria, who frequently sought out Hypatia's wise counsel. On the other side, you had Cyril, the powerful bishop of Alexandria. Cyril and Orestes were locked in this bitter, escalating feud over control of the city. Because Hypatia was highly influential and close to Orestes, she became the target of vicious political rumors, claiming she was the one preventing a reconciliation between the two leaders.
Tragically, this tension boiled over into horrific violence. In March of 415 AD, a mob ambushed Hypatia's carriage. They dragged her into a former temple and brutally murdered her using roof tiles or sharp shards. This act sent absolute shockwaves through the Roman Empire. It wasn't just the heartbreaking loss of a brilliant mind, it profoundly destabilized Alexandrian intellectual life. It really signaled a dark conclusion to the tolerance and academic freedom that defined classical antiquity.
For over a millennium after that, the Great Library existed only as a ghost, a mythic memory of what humanity could achieve. But our story doesn't end in tragedy. Part 4, The Modern Rebirth. We are pivoting to triumphant optimism here, exploring how this dream was literally resurrected in the 21st century. In 1974, Alexandria University planted the seed to rebuild. Supported by UNESCO and global donations, they held an international competition, which was won by the architectural firm Snowada. And the design is stunning. The modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina features a breathtaking, tilted, circular roof. It's built to visually represent a rising sun emerging from the Mediterranean Sea. It perfectly connects back to our motif of light, symbolizing the cyclical nature of human knowledge and bridging that ancient past directly with the future.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer capacity, 8 million. This 11-story modern marvel, which actually descends deep underground, is designed with compact storage capable of holding up to 8 million volumes. It officially opened its doors in October of 2002, firmly reestablishing Alexandria as a global capital of learning.
And the space where you actually read those books? Just as awe-inspiring. 20,000 square meters. That is the size of the main reading room alone. It's arranged across these beautiful cascading terraces so readers always feel close to the books. And brilliantly, it's lit by vertical north-facing skylights. This architectural genius allows the massive room to be bathed in natural sunlight, without allowing any direct, damaging rays to actually touch and degrade the precious manuscripts.
Even on the outside, the building serves as a massive monument to human communication. The exterior features this sweeping, curved wall made of gray Aswan granite. Hand-carved into this stone are roughly 4,000 unique characters representing 10,000 years of global writing systems. We're talking everything from ancient alphabets and musical notation to Braille and barcodes. It is just a stunning visual representation of universal human thought. But, the modern complex honors its namesake by being far more than just a place to store books. It is a vibrant, fully realized cultural hub. It houses an antiquities museum with artifacts pulled right from the Mediterranean seabed, a manuscript museum, and specialized labs specifically for restoring ancient texts. It even features a planetarium to look at the stars, just like Eratosthenes did. Plus, it heavily focuses on the future with a massive digital assets repository to ensure our modern knowledge isn't lost to physical decay. So the crucial point is this. Alexandria has proven that while papyrus and stone can be broken, the human desire to understand the universe is truly a phoenix. It can and will rise again. But it also leaves us with a profound challenge, doesn't it? As knowledge rises from the ashes, how will we protect our own archives, our own digital libraries today, from the cyclical fires of history? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through time for today's Explainer. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.